Hey everybody, had a hard cut there. This is Jeff Roars, Chief Marketing Officer of Jobvite. Welcome to the Summer to Evolve. It's great to have you. I'm really excited about this session because we have a couple of gentlemen that I have known from the Cleveland marketing mafia over the years, and they just both have Joe in their name, Joel Cheesman and Joe Pulitzi, and we're going to be talking about content strategy for recruiting. And before we get started, I wanted to remind everybody, hey, this is week 10 of the Summer to Evolve. We still have a couple of great weeks ahead. We'll be rounding out content strategy this week. I'm excited also because I'm back Friday talking with Beth St. Clair about how to use improv in business and life and career to aid your creativity. Having taken some improv classes in my life, I know it's very beneficial. So tell your friends and your family who's interested in such a thing. And then we've got AI and automation next week and analytics the final week of our Summer to Evolve. Here's the rest of our week here. We're doing this Too Talented thing. Tomorrow we've got demo days, and then there's that break room I mentioned. All of that you can register at thesummertooevolve.com. Now, without further ado, let's fire up the video and the audio for one, Mr. Joel Cheesman. Welcome, Joel. How are you, sir? Oh, let's see if we get him.
Boom.
There he is. Oh, in living color. I
love that our webinar is two people. Like there wasn't enough brain power with one of us, so you had to have two of us on.
You got it. Now you got to explain the outfit. What's going on there?
All right, so this is my Summer to Evolve top, and I've got Cleveland represented with my Browns hat. If you don't know the elf, there's your Brown. So I want to make you feel comfortable with my Jobvite and my Cleveland going. I'm ready to rock.
I appreciate it. I feel very much at home. I've known you for, gosh, it's scary, almost 2 decades now, and my world kind of came back to yours in terms of talent acquisition and recruiting. But you've been moving around the earth and now find yourself in Indianapolis.
Yeah, we were preschool mates. I think that's where we met 20 years ago. We look so old for our age.
There was a kid who bit me in preschool because he wouldn't put away his toys, and it was time to put away the toys for snack time. I still have the scar.
That's not haunting you at all, is it?
Chad is your counterpart at the Chad and Cheese podcast. You are without him. How does it feel to be solo today? I mean, we're not going to let that last long.
Here's a bird, baby. I'm ready to fly. I'm ready to fly like an eagle.
Excellent. And we see your summer favorites there. I immediately go to the bomb pop because that is the right answer. So congratulations. But talk to me about the Chicago dog.
I know there's a debate between New York style and Chicago style. Being right there in Cleveland, I don't know what side you pick on that, but I love a good Chicago dog. I mean, the sport peppers, the celery salts, it's basically a sandwich in a bun. Whatever you do though, no ketchup. If you put ketchup on your dog, we can't be friends.
All right, let's see how our next guest feels about that. Mr. Joe Pulitzi, aka Godfather of Content Marketing, aka author of The Will to Die, is first fiction, suspense, mystery novel. Joe, welcome.
Hey, you guys should take it on the road. Hey, Joel.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, is that song for Summer to Evolve? Is that Hootie and the Blowfish? Because it certainly sounded like Darius Rucker.
It's Hootie.
I thought it was a little Kaja Goo Goo.
Yeah, I mean, I was grooving to it.
I'm telling you what, it won't leave you. It's subconscious now.
Your nightmares at this point. Yeah. Good.
Joe,
mozzarella sticks.
Yeah, got to explain this. We immediately zero in that your ice cream truck order is mozzarella sticks. Explain what's going on here.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know. Actually, I don't think I've ever talked about this in public, but I have a thing where I try to eat mozzarella sticks in every state of the union. I'm up to 24, believe it or not. And I have to tell you, don't get mozzarella sticks in North Dakota. It's simply not worth it. But, you know, Cleveland mozzarella sticks are right there. So the point is, whenever I see them, wherever I'm at, you get them.
You know what an ice cream truck is?
Right. It does serve ice cream.
They have
is there like a spit?
They have in Cleveland, they have fryers in their ice cream trucks.
Yeah, lots
Well,
of other goodies.
Because
for
you
the
never
kids.
know when the weather's going to turn.
excellent. Well,
Yeah.
on that note, I'm Jeff Roars. I am very glad to be here. As I said, I've known these gentlemen for a long time, and oddly enough, despite mutual Cleveland roots, Joel and Joe had never met before we got them together. So I'm really excited about this conversation. If you've got questions, ask them in the Q&A panel on GoToWebinar. Tag any smart things they say with hashtag JobviteS2E, and we are recording this. And in fact, we've recorded most of our sessions. You can find them on the Summer to Evolve. Just scroll down and pick the week and the topic and the session you want to watch. So,
By the way, as a
we look at-
Browns fan, I drank a lot, so I may have met Joe, but not remembered.
We probably
possible.
did. It was probably a municipal stadium thing.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot of people met at Municipal Stadium and cannot remember it. So that's very fair.
Yeah.
So while we gaze at your very handsome headshots here, we're here to talk content strategy for recruiters. And the thing I love about Two Talent is we bring somebody from inside the TA, HR tech kind of industry, and we bring somebody from the outside. And Joel, you are insider. So talk to me about what content strategy means in recruiting from your perspective.
Well, I'm going to look at it from three perspectives: text, audio, and video. And social should be sort of a glue that ties all of those things together. My guess is Joe has a similar strategy. I think where it is unique with employment is there are things that normal marketing strategies don't consider, such as job postings. Most people don't think of job postings as content, but it is. It's like a landing page and you're selling yourself. And from what we know with data from Google for Jobs, which much of the audience will know what that is, the good old Google algorithm is figuring out what pages you're landing on that you're actually staying on for a while and maybe going to additional pages from that. So hopefully we'll talk a little bit about job descriptions and making those really robust to get those rankings up on Google for Jobs and get those job seekers engaged and get them applying to your company or joining your funnel, if you will, your CRM, your candidate pool.
And Joel, let's dig in just a little further. Who on a traditional talent acquisition team, who are those content creators, right? You're dealing with a hiring manager, you're dealing with a variety of different people, but who's actually putting pen to paper on the different types of content you see?
Sure, my experience is it can differ. You have agencies that will work with you on some of this stuff and build branding and HTML and images and things like that within job postings, all the way down to hiring managers, the recruiters. Marketing in very rare instances will get involved with what are on job descriptions. There are also a lot of vendors out there that are trying to help you better optimize or get more out of your job postings. A lot of people online will know who Textio is. Optimal is a site that'll take your job postings, put it in the magic mixer and make it more optimized for Google. So there's no clear-cut answer, and it's kind of a case by case on the company. I tend to recommend that marketing or someone who has an expertise in writing salesy type copy should be involved at some level in those job postings, because essentially it's a sales sheet, it's a landing page, and you should think of it as such.
So Joe, having created Content Marketing World, the Content Marketing Institute, been around this, I'm sure there've been times where your world has crossed over into talent acquisition and you've seen the interaction. As you've reflected on it, where are the points of optimization or the points of concern from your perspective? Where can we look to improve?
Well, I think in general, when you're talking content strategy, you could take that a lot of different ways, but what an enterprise makes more of than anything else is content. And Joel, you gave some really good examples from your side of the house, but if you look at what marketing's doing, sales is doing, accounting, finance, they were just creating all sorts of content. A lot of that it's for public dissemination. The problem is when you go into most enterprises, there's no real why behind it. There's no, we're going to create this content to this particular audience to do this particular behavior or maintain this particular behavior. That's what we want to think about when we think content strategy. So let's take it to the HR side of the house. All right. Lots of different ways to do content. You talked about audio, video, textual plus image, but we're already moving too far forward at this point. What we want to figure out is, all right, who are we targeting? Who's that specific audience that we're trying to target? And then what do we want that audience to do? So then you can have a good, so in my case, I live on the marketing side of the house. What I want to do is meet with the talent folks, the HR team, and figure out, okay, let's get something going. I'm creating lots of content. You're creating lots of content. Let's try to help each other do this. And I can give you a good example from sales. I mean, I've worked with so many sales teams where they're creating their own content, marketing's creating their own content. They're not talking to each other at all. I'm under the assumption that that happens a lot with HR marketing as well. So you have a lot of assets out there, but they're not being used properly. So what I would suggest is somebody from the talent side, somebody from HR needs to have a meeting with somebody in marketing, or at least the content creation side of the house. I know, big taboo.
Yeah.
That's what we had to do in sales. When you talk about marketing and sales alignment, it's a big issue and has been for 5 years on the marketing and sales side. Yeah, somebody actually has to talk and have a meeting and figure out, okay, sales, what are you trying to do? Okay, marketing, this is what we're trying to do. You're ignoring every piece of content I create. How do I get you to stop ignoring it and use it into your sales process? Same thing on the talent side. You're not using, like, you're doing all these job postings you're doing. I'd love to use some of that content. That would be great. We could actually help our marketing goals. How can all this content I'm creating help you in your talent acquisition goals? So I don't know if that's being done. I mean, you two could tell me. I don't think there's any meetings going on and teams and committees put together for how you can align on the goal side before we just start creating more content.
Yeah, and I think there's an extra wild card in there. With a high unemployment rate, and we have 40 million new unemployed people in the last 5 months in this country. Most employers aren't needing more applicants, so there's not as much of an incentive to really care about how your job description looks, unless you really need that candidate. So let's say engineers, for example. And companies might say, you know what, we really need to focus on our engineering job descriptions, but not so much on our entry-level sales positions, because we have more people than we can do it. That's sort of an odd thing with recruiting. Marketing is like, bring everybody in, because everybody, if you've got money to spend, we want you to come in and buy our products. HR is a little less open in most cases when there's high unemployment.
Well, real quick, you bring up engineering. It's a really good example. People want to check it out. It's from a company called Indium, and they're a soldering manufacturing engineering organization. So really, really B2B. But what's amazing is they created a blog called From One Engineer to Another, and the entire blog is created by engineers in the organization. These engineers become rock stars. Other engineers see this on the outside. They don't have a hiring problem. They have more applicants than they would ever need, because they're like, wow, look at these engineers. They're great. These engineers are engaging in content from Indium itself. So when you think about those types of challenges and say, okay, well, how do we lower our costs to acquire, and how do we track the right people, and how do we make it a no-brainer decision for people when we do want them? Well, if you get your information out there and you actually become the leading experts in your informational niche, everything on the HR, the talent acquisition side gets better.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people think about that as one of the benefits, but it's clearly one of the main benefits.
So let's unpack that story a little bit. How did that blog come about? Because it only succeeds if a few things happen, right? You got to have the idea.
Yeah.
Then you've got to have somebody who probably in marketing, or if we're doing it by analogy here in talent acquisition, identifies engineers who have a passion for sharing knowledge or writing or anything else. So how do they do that? Because I'm sure every TA program.
It's a rare instance.
It's a rare instance. In this case, a gentleman by the name of Rick Short put it together. He was the internal champion. So you need one or two champions to make this happen. But let's say,
did it surface out of the engineering? Was Rick an engineer?
No, it was marketing. It came out of marketing. But think it doesn't have to, right? But let's say the HR team, somebody on the talent side gets together with marketing side, say, wow, we can really help each other. How do we do this? Well, we want to create a blog we think that we can get more leads by doing this and help on the recruiting side. Okay, that's a possibility. We can make that happen. A lot of work needs to be done. How do we do it? Well, we just need our engineers to write blogs. What? I mean, just think about that for a second. Engineers are not the best writers in the world. So this is the great part of it, and I think this will help the talent folks. If you have that goal and then you go out to the employees, in this case engineers, but it doesn't have to be, your goal is to get the raw content. Your goal isn't to force them to write. So however those people need to get their story across, their employee stories, their employee challenges, whatever, you talk to them about, well, maybe I need to record you. Maybe you can just type up a Q&A in email. Maybe I'll do video, you know, whatever. I mean, if you look at Channel 9 from Microsoft, which they did years ago, they just took a video camera around and put it on the web and, you know, got all the software engineers on, and that blew up, you know, for engineers wanting to work at Microsoft. Same type of thing. So it has to start with, okay, this is what we're trying to do on both sides, goals on both sides, and then don't force your content creators, i.e. your employees, to create content when they're not used to it. Just get the raw content, and then the marketing team or the HR team hires the editorial team to make that content engageable by outside people.
Joe, do you know if there's a component of like job search or maybe like a little widget in the sidebar with current job openings at the company for engineers, or do they keep it really separate?
It's it's on the main website. So you still have the main nav and it's there. It's not on the right-hand sidebar, but it's on the upper nav.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to track.
Yeah, it's not a separate content brand on the outside. It's actually within the website itself.
It'd be cool to track how much traffic goes from the blog to job postings and then applications.
See, there's another thing. Yeah, that's a great way to measure it.
So, Joel, how much collaboration do you see between TA recruiting teams and marketing? Is it a natural thing? Is it a difficult thing?
Little to none. They know each other. They've maybe had lunch a few times, but there's no connection. You know, I did a panel back in February before the world shut down, and I had the CMO of Yeti. If you enjoy their coolers like I do, and we focused on talent acquisition, and he was good friends with, you know, the head of HR, but we were telling him things that blew his mind, like how many applicants are in Yeti's ATS. And we talked to Intel, who was on the panel, who gets millions of applicants every day. And when you can connect marketing with, we have 1 million potential customers that we're not talking to about our company, that really makes marketing think, oh hell, we're missing this opportunity. And I'm interested in hearing from Joe from the marketing side. There's a real fear factor. You know, I don't speak marketing. Marketing doesn't speak talent. They're separate. If marketing talks to anybody, hopefully it's sales and what's going on there, because there's synergy. But how you get these two entities together is a real challenge, whether it's enhancing the brand or bringing, you know, a cohesive brand from what's our consumer brand versus HR, or whether it's, hey, we have 1 million resumes in our database that we just let sit there and rot for years on end that we're not talking to what we should be, because those are potential buyers. It's not happening nearly enough. Part of the Chad and Cheese podcast mission is to try to get those conversations to happen. I think what would be helpful from Joe's perspective, and Jeff, you've been in marketing for a long time, is what ammunition should TA go with to marketing to get their attention? Is it strictly numbers? Is it strictly help me understand, let me come into meetings? I mean, how does that connection happen? I think a lot of companies are challenged with that.
Jeff, I'm sure you've got a take on this. Mine is, you want to start with the question. I mean, you deal with it just like you do any content marketing problem. You would go and you would ask the marketing person, what's your biggest challenge? You know, what's keeping you up at night? What are things that you can't solve that are killing you? So, I mean, I don't know why this came to mind, but we used to work with out of Canton, Akron, a company called KAG. They're one of the largest chemical transportation companies. Jeff, you see them all over the place in Cleveland, Ohio. But they wanted to know how they got most of their referrals for their jobs. And all the referrals came from other drivers. Go figure, right? drivers would talk. They would be at the truck stop, and someone say, "Hey, who are you driving for?" I'd say, "KAG. Tell me about that company." And if it's positive, those people would. I mean, and it's a very tough industry to find really good drivers. So they figured that out, and then marketing and HR worked together, and they're like, okay, well, what would make sense to get those people to talk about us more favorably, even more, or even have something to hand other drivers? And they said, well, let's do an employee newsletter. Really simple. Send it to the house so that the family gets it as well as the driver. So the driver has it in the cab, and also send it to the family. And you know what they did? They just talked about the employees. Award this family struggling with this problem, this family needs your help, made it really down home type of content. And what did they do? They passed it around. So it took that already positive word of mouth and took it to the next level. So now it helps marketing and it helps HR. So I guess to answer your question, Joel, I would really think hard and try to put the HR person, try to put yourselves in marketing's position. Get a meeting and say, look, I'm just trying to understand this thing. I'm not a marketer. What are you dealing with? How can I help you? You know, what are your biggest challenges? And maybe we can work on one project. And this is the goal, by the way. You're not going to boil the ocean here. Find one project where you both have goals in it. And then you can both put assets to the table and then test it out. You do a beta test. And you do a 6-month beta test. And if the beta test works, whatever it is, podcast, blog, newsletter, mini magazine, SEO chat, whatever it is. And then you go from there. So it doesn't have to, I don't want it to be so overwhelming. If you just take baby steps, oh, I got that problem. Oh, let's fix that. Let's do a project. Start there, and it starts the relationship.
Yeah, I would add, marketing always wants more eyeballs at the least cost they can get to drive response in whatever way possible. So talent acquisition is driving an audience of candidates. And so that's an asset that marketing may want to take advantage of. And similarly, marketing has assets, existing content assets, newsletters, et cetera, that the TA folks could take a look at, and perhaps, just as you just had in this conversation, hey, that blog could have a sidebar of the jobs that are appearing, right? It's that kind of brainstorming that are quick wins, but it starts with reaching across the aisle, right? It starts with, just having that first outreach to, if you're a big enough organization to have a head of content marketing, talk to them. If you're not, reach out to the VP or reach out to somebody who's more of the hands-on practitioner to start that conversation, because I certainly have found that there is a lot more similarity than difference here. And there is also a bigger topic, and I think this is interesting because you started, Joel, with job descriptions, and that's a very particular skill set, and I think there are ways to write it in magnetic ways and really attract people. Then you've got, what's the pool of content that talks to people about both your company, your culture, your values, but seeing themselves in your company and seeing people like themselves in your company. That's the big diversity and inclusion push right now, where marketing wants to be doing that and showing that they're a forward-thinking organization, that they're open, they've got a broad recruiting net. TA benefits from that. So I'm interested in what you're seeing there, because we're certainly seeing a lot of interest around that kind of content creation right now.
Yeah, there's no question. You're talking about like COVID and how we're protecting not only COVID, but diversity and how we're protecting our employees.
Yeah, the two kind of get conflated. You've got the one that's the culture, the values, and how are you going to protect me if I join, and then you've got the one of, hey, are people like me there? Are they enjoying their time? Am I hearing their stories firsthand? And so I'm just interested in that kind of content and the value you see in it.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic segue to get marketing and TA together. We've seen with Black Lives Matter, we've seen with diversity, we've seen with COVID. I know Amazon's been running commercials about how we protect our employees. We check everyone at the door. The woman who's checking is an Asian woman. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. Call me cynical, but yeah, anyway. So there's a diverse play, there's a we're protecting our employees play, and through that, people go, oh, Amazon really cares about its employees. I'm going to buy from Amazon. We saw 2016 when Trump went into office, some employers, I forget, it was a builder, had a really intricate advertisement about a mother and daughter crossing over the border in Mexico and eventually being employed by this company, right? It had nothing to do with employment technically, but the message was, we're employing everyone, independent of where they're from or their color or their age. So a lot of these things happen a lot. Audi had a commercial where a guy's daughter is driving a soapbox derby car. I don't know if you remember this commercial, but the guy's like, what do I tell my daughter that, she can't have the same opportunities, da, 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 da. And the message of that is like, Audi is down with different sexes, right, at our company. So that's a great way that marketing and TA can get together when these timely events happen. I want to throw in one thing that came to mind when I thought about marketing and HR was, I want to say it was Taco Bell, but this was really genius and really simple. Anyone who applied to Taco Bell through their website got an automated email saying, thank you for your interest in Taco Bell. Print out this coupon for a free chalupa, right? So one is you feel good about, oh, that's kind of cool. They give me free food. You're going to get foot traffic into Taco Bell. And you got an applicant that might choose you over KFC or Pizza Hut or wherever else they might be looking to find a job. So that's one simple example I just thought of while we were talking.
Yeah, that's a great example. I think another example, Jeff, that I was thinking of is, I mean, you know better than I do, but it seems like the HR department in a lot of ways, they're the ones that tell you what not to do from a content creation and social media standpoint. Here's, okay, we can't talk about this, we can't do this, or on your social feed, say you do not represent this company. But what I don't see a lot of, and I'd like to see more of, is how you teach content creation techniques and social media techniques to help them build their own audiences. And that's a measurable thing. Like, you could go in and start doing a test and say, let's go to these 100 employees and help them, what's their story that they want to tell about them, and let's help them tell it. Let's give them the ammunition. And I know a lot of companies don't want to do this, but if they build their audience, that generally should bode well on the company and getting more people in. So if you think that that's an audience, your employees' audience, the people that they reach, if that is an audience that you can go after, which I think it is, there's a lot of potential to say, wow, these 100 employees had this size of audience on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, whatever, and our goal is to, what if we 3x'd it? What do we do? And then what's the output of that? So find a measurable on the back end that you can measure that, and you could say, wow, look what these 100 people did. Let's go out to the entire organization and make them all look like rock stars, and everyone's gonna want to work for us. And on the marketing side, that'll really help us as well, because then everyone's going to be talking about working at our place, or you could just do a brand perception study, and then the brand went from here to here versus the competition. So marketing loves those studies. You say, hey, let's work on a brand perception study, but the only thing that will change is the content creation techniques of our employees. So just an idea.
Are there any tools where you can plug in all your employees and see who has the biggest social media footprint? That would be interesting.
There's a lot of them. Yes, if you have the names of them, you can absolutely track them.
Like Twitter handles.
You do. What's a good tool? What's a good tool for that, Jeff?
I'm so old school. The first thing that came to mind was Clout, but anybody remember the Clout score?
If anybody has a question, we will find the tool. There's like a dozen tools.
We will give you a tool that is at least 10 years old and defunct, as well as one that is current. Further back.
I think MySpace is the place to be at this time.
There might actually be sourcing tools on the sourcing side that'll pull social media profiles and maybe how many followers each one has. There's got to be some tools out there.
Yes, there's a lot of tools that look at that, and then they'll look at all the major social networks, because you'll get basically you create a lead score from a marketing side that looks at each of your employees. And that's maybe a good place to start. You could just say, okay, let's take our 10, our 20, our 30 most popular employees based on social media audience size.
Yeah.
Let's try a test. Let's see what happens. And basically become your internal influencers.
Well, and we're using a tool that allows us to automate the some of the company tweets to push them out on employee social media, and talent acquisition professionals should be thinking about that, because if marketing is using tools like that to increase amplification, that's a place to be putting job content, to be pushing that out and talking about it. Or if you surface a profile, right, Joe, to your point, maybe you do a video interview of an engineer about what it's like to work here. Those are surfaceable social pieces of content that you should look at. So I want to go to the Q&A panel here because Tamara from Quebec, from Montreal, greetings.
Quebecer.
She asks, she works for a small cabinet making company, 8 people. What would you suggest? So let's boil it down to one idea from each of you to attracting talent via catchy content. So it's cabinet making company.
I assume she's looking for cabinet makers.
I think that's probably
salespeople for cabinets. 8 employees. Wow.
So it's super small.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is I would guess they're a local company out of Quebec. 8 employees. I'm guessing they all service the making of those.
And it is, yes, cabinet makers, she says.
Cabinet makers.
Cabinet makers. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, 8 cabinet makers. Only in Quebec. I would yeah, I would say you could do a video series and look at the cabinets that they've made, how they're special, why a cabinet maker would want to work there. I feel like it would be a very visual thing to appeal to those folks.
Joel, it could be visual, but it could also be, if I'm thinking about, the day in the life of a cabinet maker, I'm under the assumption that they could listen to things while they work.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So maybe a podcast would be something to look at and say, okay, you create a podcast specifically for cabinet makers that interviews a cabinet maker every week. And what the day in the life of a cabinet maker, I don't know, something like that. What are the challenges the cabinet makers are dealing with? Figure out what that challenge is, put that together, interview those people. People in certain jobs love hearing about other people doing that same job. So I don't know if that's being done, but
the challenge on the podcast side for me would be the mass distribution of a podcast, right? So they put it out on iTunes and Google Play and Spotify. It's going to go everywhere, but they only need Quebec. So
they may only need Montreal, right?
Montreal.
So a small company, you're dealing hyper local.
Right.
That gets me thinking about.
So if you did videos and then you did Facebook ads only in that area and talking about cabinet making and expertise, you're targeting just that area, and then you're talking about cabinets and people who are interested in cabinets, make cabinets. To me, that would be probably the way I would go with it.
Hey, how about old school? Send them something in print. I'm sure you can get all the cabinet makers in the area. Send them a little mini magazine of the latest cabinet making innovations. Nobody's doing print anymore. Come on, we got to get back to old school.
No, we got to keep the but she's in Canada, so that's Canada Post. I think they're doing okay.
Well, I'm saying
that's a really unique.
They have printing presses in Canada.
I got an idea for you.
Maybe there are meetups in the area.
Hey, there you go.
Serious.
Yeah.
One of the things with a small company, right, especially around something of great quality like cabinets, custom cabinets, etc., is a very simple social media trick you can do is follow the people who are tweeting the hashtags or the things around it. So make yourself known within the community of influence, because whether you're recruiting cabinet makers or you're recruiting salespeople, what you're trying to do is create visibility within your location. And while it doesn't necessarily strike you as content that you're following somebody, once you do that, they're going to be seeing or have greater visibility into things that you're posting. And then there are all sorts of interesting things that you can do with that audience around not only currently what you're doing, but historical things. Like there are a few people I follow in the Cleveland area who are constantly, their niche is tweeting out historical photos. So tweeting out, historical, antique cabinets or things that are different or unique or whatever. There are ways to create a niche there to attract folks who are similarly interested in the topic, whether they're a cabinet maker or not. So you're getting people who have affinity for that and a love for that, and it creates passion when you're hiring.
That's a great idea. Like if you thought about an Instagram concept, you could put out every day or every other day an antique cabinet and the history behind it and who made it and just
Yep.
keep, and the key is consistency. But that would be something really, really cool.
And you could
automate
source
those.
those from your cabinet makers, like have them share what are some of the favorite things they've done or seen.
That's true.
Yeah, and you could automate the advertising on that to boost it amongst people in your area that are interested in the same thing.
That's true.
You know, in Canada, when you want to go fishing or ice fishing, you go where the fishing is or the fishes are. Sometimes a good dad joke comes out of me on these things.
I believe that's carved in wood that you can buy at Hobby Lobby or someplace else, right? All right, so we're in the home stretch here. I'd be remiss if I didn't come back to the topic of a job description and who creates that content. So Joel, is there a tension between the recruiter and the hiring manager on that? Is there any arm wrestling there, or does the recruiter have to default to what the hiring manager wants? Like, because I think there's a great opportunity for creativity, especially in the kind of the first paragraph that sets the tone to really be creative, to capture interest. But I'm interested in your thoughts there.
I think there's a lot less conversation or collaboration than there should be. I see stories all the time, you know, techies joking about companies that are asking for 10 years experience for a job, and the technology is only 5 years old. So somewhere along the line, that conversation, you know, isn't happening. And it probably needs to, at least if it's a pass by, like, hey, does everything on this look fine? What insight do you have? I also think we should mention, we're talking about video and audio and whatnot. All that stuff, if it can be embedded into those job descriptions, you know, you should be doing it. Whether it's an embed file for audio or a YouTube video or whatever it is, a job description doesn't have to just be text. It can also be interactive with other platforms as well.
Joe, I want to come back to something that you raised and just explore it, you know, as our last kind of little section here, and that is the idea of being more journalistic in capturing and creating content within an organization. So it doesn't matter who you are in the organization, you're armed now with Zoom or whatever else, and when things go back to being in person, your iPhone and video cameras so that you can record things. I think we do, when we think content, we immediately revert to, oh, it's something I got to write. But there's this wealth of video and other kind of things that we can create. What's their efficacy? When you think about it, would you rather have a written piece, a video interview of somebody, a video interview and it's transcribed? I'm thinking about, you know, TA professionals trying to draw out those human stories from existing employees that are so magnetic in attracting new, you know, new applicants.
Well, first of all, I can't answer that question because I don't know what the goal is. So you might have all kinds of content and be like, I can't use this because that's not what I'm trying to do. But thinking about it like a journalist is really important. So come at it from this perspective. What's the most important thing to journalists? Their sources. So let's say you're a journalist, right? What do you need to do? You need to find your sources in the organization that can tell you where the stories are at, what employees are doing. So if you can go to somebody in marketing and somebody in sales and somebody in operations and say, look, I'm looking to highlight our employees, but I don't know where the stories are at. And employees generally don't like to go to HR and say, oh yeah, I'm doing this. But you're going to find it out on the shop floor, as they say. So set that network up and say you're looking for stories. Right now, we don't know how those stories are going to be told. I don't know if it's going to be text or audio or into social or whatever, but let's find the stories. And if we find the stories, you might say, wow, this is really compelling. And then say, these stories, our employees would love to hear about this. Our outside audience that's trying to apply might want to hear about this. Our executive level, our investors and stakeholders might want to know about this. Those are the things that I would do. So I think the first thing is find where the stories are happening in your own organization. The stories revolve around employees. You're responsible for the wealth and well-being of those employees. So let's start there, and then we'll figure out how we're going to tell those stories.
You won't know about fried mozzarella sticks unless you ask.
That's right.
A question.
I have to go to the Holiday Inn Express in Fargo, and I had to say, Do you have mozzarella sticks? I know it's 9 in the morning, but will you turn your fryer on?
I got to figure out what ice cream truck you're going to, Joe, because I know where you
Yeah.
live. I still can't
Yeah,
figure
what
it out.
neighborhood is it? Is it a
Exactly.
West Side thing?
Oh, yeah,
So-
it actually is.
So as we wrap up here, gentlemen, 3 Browns fans / victims. What's the likelihood of an NFL season, and what will the Browns record be?
Oh, jeez.
And this is where I lose half the audience. I just know
Yeah,
it.
nobody cares.
That's all right.
My only prediction is that the Browns have a better record than the Steelers this year. How many ever games they play. That's really all I care about.
I'll be the optimist because I'm bringing out the pitchforks if we don't have football this year.
Oh man.
Full season, maybe a few teams. It may be an abbreviated asterisk season. Browns go 9-7 and grab that wild card spot.
Oh, I like it.
There you go.
I hope
Why
you're
not?
right.
Yeah.
I honestly have zero idea at this point because my optimism was so high last year. I put in for season tickets and then went to the season opener and they got crushed and had the highest number of penalties ever. So I have learned not to predict. But
Which one of you was there at Bottlegate? We talked
I was
about
at
that.
Bottlegate.
Yeah, that was tough. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, in any event, gentlemen, thank you very much. And for those folks who are still on, if you have questions for these gentlemen, where can they find you on what's your best social media channel to reach out? Twitter, LinkedIn, Joel?
Yeah, for what I do in this space, LinkedIn, Joel Cheesman, no E after the S. You'll find me. There's not many Joel Cheesmans on LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn's fine. Joe Pulizzi, and same thing on Twitter at Joe Pulitzi.
Excellent, excellent. Well, gentlemen, I really do appreciate the time today. Going to let's see if I can bring up my screen here to actually do my responsibilities to end everything. So if you do have any interest in how Jobvite can help you with regard to content on your site for diversity, inclusion, or otherwise, just go to jobvite.com and let us know. And as I mentioned, this is just part of the Summer to Evolve. We've got more content, demo days tomorrow on how to do branded content creation and management for recruitment marketing campaigns. And then the break room with Beth St. Clair. She is a improv and leadership coach. So going to help you understand how to use improv to improve your creativity, which can certainly help you on the content side of things as well as your career. So with that, that is the Summer to Evolve. I want to thank Joe and Joel yet again. This was a great time and we appreciate your time today. Hope you have a great rest of the week. Goodbye.